Hi K1. Today I'm going to read you 3 poems from a book called Where the Sidewalk Ends. This one doesn't really have a picture on the front, but it just says it on the side, the title. And this book is a book full of a lot of different poems, and they're all by the same author. And an author of poems is called a poet, and his name is Shel Silverstein. So I'm going to read you only 3 of the poems today because some of them are quite long. The first poem I'm going to read is called 1 Inch Tall. And there's no pictures except for this one. So I'll show you the picture and then I'll read the poem. It's this picture right here of the little man riding on a worm. Okay? If you were only 1 inch tall, you'd ride a worm to school. The teardrop of a crying ant would be your swimming pool. A crumb of a cake would be a feast and last you 7 days at least. A flea would be a frightening beast if you were 1 inch tall. If you were only 1 inch tall, you'd walk beneath the door, and it would take about a month to get down to the store. A bit of fluff would be your bed. You'd swing upon a spider's thread, and wear a thimble on your head if you were 1 inch tall. You'd surf across the kitchen sink upon a stick of gum. You couldn't hug your mama, you'd just have to hug her thumb. You'd run from people's feet in fright. To move a pen would take all night. This poem took 14 years to write, 'cause I'm just 1 inch tall. Okay, the next one I'm going to read is called Snowman. There's no picture for this one, but the neat thing about poems is it usually helps you to make a picture in your head. Snowman. 'Twas the first day of springtime, and the snowman stood alone, as the winter snows were melting, and the pine trees seemed to groan. Ah, you poor and smiling snowman, you'll be melted by and by. Said the snowman, what a pity, for I'd like to see July. Yes, I'd like to see July, and please don't ask me why. But I'd like to see, yes, I'd like to, oh, I'd like to see July. Chirped a robin just arriving, seasons come and seasons go, and the greatest ice must crumble when it's flowers' time to grow. And as one thing is beginning, so another thing must die. And there's never been a snowman who has ever seen July. No, they never see July, no matter how hard they try. No, they never, ever, never, ever, never, ever see July. And the snowman sniffed his carrot nose and said, at least I'll try. And he bravely smiled his frosty smile, and he blinked his coal-blacked eye. And there he stood and faced the sun a-blazin' from the sky, and I really cannot tell you if he ever saw July. Did he ever see July? You can guess as well as I if he ever saw July. Okay, I have another one. This one is called If the World Was Crazy. If the world was crazy, you know what I'd eat? A big slice of soup and a whole quart of meat. A lemonade sandwich, and then I might try some roasted ice cream or a bicycle pie. A nice notebook salad, an underwear roast, an omelet of hats, and some crisp cardboard toast. A thick malted milk made from pentils and daisies, and that's what I'd eat if the world was crazy. If the world was crazy, you know what I'd wear? A chocolate suit and a tie made of eclair, some marshmallow earmuffs, some licorice shoes, and I'd read a paper of peppermint news. I'd call the boys Susie, and I'd call the girls Harry. I'd talk through my ears, and I would always carry a paper umbrella for when it grew hazy to keep in the rain if the world was crazy. If the world was crazy, you know what I'd do? I'd walk on the ocean and swim in my shoe. I'd fly through the ground and I'd skip through the air. I'd run down the bathtub and bathe on the stair. When I met someone, I'd say, "Goodbye, Joe," And when I was leaving, then I'd say hello. And the greatest of men would be silly and lazy, so I would be king, if the world was crazy.